proud to be able to share good thinking and keep each other fresh, keep the members of Qualified Tutor fresh and thinking, learning and growing. I saw a really, really gorgeous quote from Mel Robbins this week in her interview with Stephen Bartlett. And she said, sometimes we feel stuck simply because we stop learning. And we don't need to change things, big things in our life. It's not a time to make big decisions. It's actually a time to start growing again. Take a course, she said. Read a book that opens your mind. Do something differently, change a habit. And then when you're feeling fresh and open, that's when you can make big decisions about your life. But sometimes we feel stuck simply because we have a natural need to keep growing. Now, the books that I chose for the Qualified Tutor Book Club are provocations. I am as much interested in discussing the topic around them as I am in discussing the book itself. And therefore, it doesn't matter terribly whether or not you've had a chance to look at it, because what we will do is use it as a jumping off point. So, Anna, would you do me the kindness of holding the book up, please? Because I can't, and I wish I could. It's frustrating to me.
What do you need
Do
me
you
to
have the
do?
book? Could you hold it up?
Well, it's a Kindle.
Oh, okay, fantastic. The title
This
is
is my Kindle.
okay, the title is Build a Business from Your Kitchen Table. And I need you to know that when I order books on Audible, I also buy them in copy because I need to be able to hold them. So I don't know how you do the Kindle thing.
Well, the Kindle, it's just changed my life. It's been
Really?
transformative. Yes,
It would.
for some reason, if I had to have the light on in my room and hold the book at bedtime, I was not enjoying it very much. And now I
Okay.
just turn off the light and turn on the Kindle, and I'm in like my little space. I
Oh,
still get paper copies for all my study books, like,
yeah.
but anything that is a bit more relaxed and I'm taking less notes, although this one ended up with some notes here and there. But generally, I just do them in the Kindle. Yeah,
That's a
it's
beautiful
transformative.
cocoon that you just described. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that with me. So to go back to the book, I first discovered this book when I was just building the concept of qualified tutor. And it really helped me because simply because of the title, you know how the best books, especially nonfiction books, they do the whole job with the title. They tell you what you need to know. And for me, knowing that it's possible to start from your kitchen table and build a viable business was very, very inspiring. And the fact that they were two women who had their journey and through their friendship, they built this business and it was hard. And then it was hard again. And guess what? It didn't really get easier. But it was still worth it and still purposeful. That was the conversation that I really wanted to be a part of. So, if you know anything about my background, I'm a mum, I have 5 kids, and I'm a school leader. And at that time, I was juggling school and home. My father had just passed away, and it was a very low point in my life. But this book felt very hopeful to me. It felt optimistic, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you. Anna, I agree with you. Having reread it, I found it less relevant to me this time. And I think that's interesting also. The concept of Not on the High Street, which is the author of these book, Holly and Sophie, created Not on the High Street because they wanted to bring makers, so all the creatives who make beautiful things in their homes and in their sheds, accessible to purchasers, to consumers. So they created Not on the High Street, which is like Etsy. It's a platform where you can buy things that people make from home. And so it's an enabler, which of course resonates very much with me because you in this room are all small business owners, and Qualified Tutor connects you and amplifies your reach. So there's a strong parallel between what I eventually created and the book that I read right at the beginning of things. What I would love to know from you, Anna, as a starting point was, how did the book resonate with you? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it very much. Although the interesting thing is that I found it was throwing questions at me in a way that, is that the direction I want to go? Is this what I want to do? Some things were encouraging me to move forwards, but all other aspects of it were asking me to stop and say, well, think about it. What does success look like for you? And I think that was a very important takeaway of the book for me. deciding what I want to do with my business. There is not just one successful business model out there that you should follow. There are many, and maybe I don't need to grow in the way that I have in my mind that I should be growing in order to be successful, because maybe success looks different for me in my situation at the moment. Yeah.
I think that is such an awesome takeaway. And if you think about the book that we did last month, Ken Robinson's Imagine If, it was all about unschooling, about rewilding education, about lots of right ways. And those of us who were academically successful and moved through school, ticking boxes and getting a pat on the head, we were used to doing things the way that school expected us to do them. And now we're small business owners, and we think that we're supposed to find the right way of doing business. But entrepreneurs are not like that. Entrepreneurs find the thing that suits them. They find their space, and they just find ways to be more them and serve the people who that works for. With tutors, you don't have to serve every student. You just have to serve the students that work for you. And knowing everybody in this room and how different each delivery model is, that makes so much sense here. So I think what I would love to ask you next, and this is a question for everyone in the room, what business books have you read that you have found helpful? Claire, do you want to get us started?
I haven't read any.
So that just blows my mind, right? Because before I do anything, I read a book about it.
No, I'm not. That's not my thing. I just have an idea and I go with it. I do my research, and my reading is like researching around and finding out things. And yeah, I don't have time to read. I can't read. I just fall asleep.
So tell me what you do read, because I know that you're a research person.
Yes, yeah, I do a lot of research. It's just like website research and talking to people. I'd rather I'd rather talk to someone. I gain a lot more from talking to people and their experiences and their advice than I do from a book. Just I know that suits me, and my mind is all over the place. So
isn't it funny that your facial expressions are like implying that there's something wrong with that? Why would there be anything wrong with that?
No, I would love to, maybe even audio, but then audio for me, I can't focus on audio. I just, yeah. So having that conversation is so much more beneficial for me. I think it's like the ADHD sort of side of things, and yeah. But yeah,
I think we have a high proportion of that in this community.
Yeah.
Claire, what are your thoughts?
What me again?
Sorry, Claire T. Go on.
Yeah, I'm much the same, really. I haven't really, because I tend to read before I go to bed. So I tend to read fiction that I can just chewing gum for the mind, zone out, go to sleep. I don't read in the day. I usually faff on the old phone, which is a terrible habit. So I could be more productive with that time. But yeah, no, I'm like the other Claire, really.
Oh, the Claire.
Like to talk.
So how did you gain the knowledge, structure, thinking to launch your business then?
A little bit of shut your eyes and jump. But also podcasts, used Helen Dickman's podcast a lot. And then discovered some other ones along the way, and just the Facebook chat in the Facebook groups and all of that, really. The community of tutors is so brilliant that we all just help each other. And you go into I'm not officially a QT member yet, but with Richard's Facebook group and Helen's, and there's a couple of others around. I think I found another one out through your meeting last week. Is it Tutors Need Tutors? Was that another one that you mentioned last week?
That's Georgina's. Yeah, fantastic.
So just going through all those groups and just mining them for information rather than a book. I mean, I've got books around, like there's Atomic Habits is here somewhere, but I haven't read more than the blurb yet.
Atomic Habits is here somewhere. I love that. I actually can't bear that book. I can't even buy it. I can't look at it because it's going to remind me all the things I'm doing wrong. So it is terribly stressful to me, the concept of that book. So yeah, I hear you. Helen, what are your thoughts? Have you read any business books?
Yes, but they're quite old ones.
Go on.
Things like The Empty Raincoat
I don't know
and
that.
that series. We were encouraged to read them on my PGCE course
Right.
because I did an adult and further education PGCE. There were quite a few people working in community education and that sort of thing, sort of embroidery crafts. So they said, well, some of you will be setting up your own courses and finding your own students. So they did prepare us for that.
That's a very
Um,
agile approach. I'm very impressed. The course that I was on was very much about go into class and do what you're supposed to do and don't think about anything beyond there.
No, there was a whole unit on that on the business aspect of tutoring, and they had somebody from the college who was a business expert to talk about it.
Isn't that amazing? I was just discussing this
Yeah.
yesterday. I was meeting with some school business consultants, and they're very, very knowledgeable. One of them had just completed his 98th successful Ofsted, which is not a way that I would like to spend my life, but he's certainly helping people. So that was really, really impressive to me. And not a quick fix person, an actual make things better person. So I was really impressed with that. But they talk about how difficult it is to run a school as a business. And they talk about using the premises for tutoring and a creche and childcare within the school to make the business more viable, which really took me by surprise, because that idea of, we're aware as tutors of doing all the different things, so creating content and tutoring and examining or assessing or invigilating, all the different portfolio that you can put together, all the different parts of the portfolio you can put together to have a viable career in tutoring. And so I thought it was interesting to think of the whole school like that, where there's this whole pattern of different types of businesses running concurrently.
Yeah, I mean there are schools. I mean, my daughter's school had its own swimming pool, which was one of the attractions, and this was a state school, so they would hire it out at weekends for people to come and do swimming lessons and that sort of thing, and that helped them finance it and keep it going for their pupils.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Carol, we'd love to hear from you. Carol, do you want to dive in? You can unmute yourself and dive in.
Yeah, and you can even see me in person with
Carol
my
Shaw. Carol Clark, I'll come straight back to you in just a second. Carol Shaw, welcome. I never get to see you.
What are you saying? All right, I'll come. I'll put myself on.
Now we're going back full circle. Okay, I think Carol Clark, you should go first because Carol Shaw stepped up.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I have a lot of luck with books. I find they tend not to fit my scenario.
Right.
And they tend to be for a bigger business and not very helpful. I haven't found anything that really helps me that much. I found most help from being part of an agency and then swinging from that out into my own.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have a customer from an agency and then they say, can you go private? And you say, no, I can't, I'm on a contract. And then they sack you and then they phone you up the next day and say, can I now employ you? Or something like that. And you end up working for yourself. And that's how I got into it, really. I haven't found books very helpful, more just trial and error. And I just try and push any doors that I can, because I don't really have enough work most of the time. I have work limited hours. I tell you the most useful thing that I have found, though.
Go on.
Which is that you can, I have paid all my national insurance. I'm ready for a full pension by being self-employed and registering as self-employed with HMRC. then you can pay voluntary class 2 national insurance and make sure you're fully covered for national insurance that way. And it's very, very cheap. It costs about 150 a year. And they're even fixing it now. Even if you're just under the limit of 12,500 or whatever it is. Do you understand me?
I think I understand you. I not really my area. We did have a session last week run by a small business coach, and she would have understood you. Carol, I am going to mute you again because it's very crackly. We were talking about exactly what you've just described with our small business coach Tracy last week. So I think that's the same thing. Were you in that session?
No, I wasn't. No.
Okay. Thank you, Carol Shaw.
Hi. Right. Well, hold on a minute. I'm just going around the room while I open the curtains. Well, my journey started. Gosh, it's nearly. No, it's not 50 years ago. Really, 1979. So long before.
That was a good year.
Yeah, it was right. I could start singing. It was a very good year. And I. Right. So it was born out of well the circumstances of the time. So I don't think that I consulted any books. It was sort of a necessity because basically I was working freelance, and but moving fast forwarding, I've been more assisted by going on a lot of courses. I mean, I went on a lot of courses with my husband when he was setting up his business. And then this is really business people, because there's a difference between educational businesses and businesses.
Claire's nodding furiously.
You know what I mean? It's they don't have the same mindset because they've been in business anyway, you know. So they were mainly accountants. So I did a lot of training with them, with very dynamic people who employed a lot of Dale Carnegie methods.
Right. So they were definitely dynamic.
You aim for excellence. You aim to be not just satisfactory, you aim to be outstanding.
Right.
To wow your clients and offer them added value. It was, in fact, we belonged for a while to a network of accountants called the Added Value Network.
Right.
But so that's it. So that is really going on courses and things. We did a lot of those in the early 2000s. But the books that have influenced me, well, that are not specifically to do with small businesses, is Michael Marland, I think that's his name, called The Craft of the Classroom. Right. He was a very well. He must be dead now because he's my father's generation. He was a very well-known educator in the Borough of Westminster. And it's a very practical book about how you handle the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was, well, it was called the 1 Minute Manager.
Oh, yes, I know that one well.
But yeah, which I found in Smith's. I found it in Smith's when I was browsing. This is going back to 2001, and putting the 1 Minute Manager to practice. Not that I say that I know them off, but, can quote them back, what they actually said, but I thought they were very practical books on how you manage.
Right, so let's talk about practical books for a second. I am not a how-to person. I really struggle when people tell me how to do things because I'm not very good at following instructions. Don't laugh.
Right.
I'm good at mindset. I'm good at approaches, but the minute they start giving step by steps, I get totally lost. Is anybody else like that? She's nodding. Come on, unmute then.
I'm very much like that.
Tell me.
Oh, I just it's just too much coming in. It just someone tells me, oh, Stella, go away.
There you go.
Yeah, someone telling me what to do, and I'm all sort of want to do it and keen, and I get overexcited, and then it just, and anything boring, I just like I'll do that later, sort of thing. So yeah, again, I just can't. It's just too much sometimes.
So So in those conversations, that's what's useful about chats about how you can do things, because then you just take the bits that you're ready for. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Filter it out, and you think, I'll go back to the other bit. You can only do so much at a time, and like when I speak to my dad about my business and stuff, because he's a financial accountant and all that and blah blah. So he has that business head on. So then I talk to him and we have like little actions, and then I go back to him again and do little actions and stuff like that. So that's how it works for me, just little and often. And otherwise it's too overwhelming and my brain just goes, I ain't doing that. Like get too panicky. So yeah.
So your dad's your best business coach, is he?
He's good. He's all right. He doesn't understand the education system, so I have to tell him how it works. But then he knows all about the business and the finances and all that sort of stuff. So he tells me what, I'm learning a lot basically, but it's going to take time. So I'm going to have to go. These dogs need feeding. I'll be back in 2 minutes. It's really like anything. It's like, for God's sake, it's not even 12 o'clock yet. That's dinner time. Anyway, but yeah, I'm just going to.
Okay, see you in a moment. So the thread that I wanted to follow next was, I don't know if you've spotted, but the pattern with the books in the book club are alternating between education and business. And Carol just said something that really piqued my interest, that education businesses are not like other businesses. And education business people are not like other business people. What are your thoughts, Anna?
Oh, I was just going to say exactly something in that direction, because I have tried some business books, like the popular ones, The Compound Effect and Atomic Habits, and I find some of the positivity and structure in there very difficult to follow. Like I really struggle when they seem to be detached from a circumstances in a way, like they almost say, well, if you do all this you'll be fine, it has to work because you're being positive and amazing. I don't think it does work like that. And then there's one book that's not a business book, but I found it incredibly useful when I was starting my business, to think about what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted to offer. And I think I'm actually going to read again now that I've remembered that it's sitting there in my living room. It's called Still Like an Artist. Still like an artist. Yes, I'm going to write it. Sorry, that's my Spanish accent. So it's called Still Like an Artist. It's incredibly pleasant. The author is, let me write it down.
I am going to look this book up. This really has piqued my interest.
Yes, it has beautiful illustrations as well. So it like really wakes your mind up and has like snappy pieces of advice on how to stay awake to your own inspiration and your own desires and your own interests without putting a lot of pressure on you. It's a perfect book.
Isn't that gorgeous? And I think, Anna, it was you that said at the beginning of this conversation that the questions of what is my purpose here, my business does not need to look like other people's businesses, I think is really interesting. I think also the concept of books that are helpful is quite new. A useful book, a book that just takes you where you need to go, I think is quite an interesting idea. Certainly when we study books at school and college, we don't get that chance to look at books in that way as of service to us. So I find that very helpful. Tina, I'm so glad you want to participate. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I have to go to a course, so I was eating my lunch first because I have limited time here. But nice to see you all. And I just want to bounce off of what was said up to now. It's kind of embarrassing, but I actually have a business degree, but this was like long time ago. And I just recently told myself and made a self-observation that I think what I learned 30 years ago is almost outdated, because we're in a new world now, the way people do business. And, observing my own children who are in their 20s and 30s and my students. And so I like the idea of we don't have to do things the way everybody else does. Okay. Also, because I've been like, one of my objectives is to publish. And I just had this discussion recently with somebody where I said, people say that in the publishing world, they say, they have certain rules that you have to, I guess, respect as far as publishing and writing is concerned. I thought, well, why? I'm an artist. A writer is an artist. And you know, when you're a painter and you sit in front of your canvas, you do what you want to do. You follow your heart. And I think in writing, it's the same thing. And in teaching, this is what I have ended up doing. I have created my own way of doing things. And so reading books, I'm sorry, was it Julia at the beginning? Like her, I fall asleep on books. I can't concentrate anymore on reading. So I prefer things like this, you know, webinars, exchanging, listening, going to conferences and things like that, and just picking up bits and pieces. I guess that's the best way that I learn. But I think business models, you know, like I said, I was taught about business models, but I'm not so sure that, you know, we have to follow everybody else's business models all the time.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's so interesting. But I really am curious. If you are not reading at the moment, why do you want to publish a book?
because I have so many things to tell.
I think you might need a podcast to start with.
Sorry.
I said maybe you need a podcast as well.
Oh, um, a podcast. Yeah, maybe.
I tell you why I ask you. Seth Godin, who is one of my favorite teachers to follow, and if you haven't followed or explored Seth Godin's work, I highly recommend it. So he has published very many books, and he says he tries not to write books anymore because by the time it's published, it's out of date. And the world is moving so quickly at the moment. And I say that because I have a book that I'm trying to. It's in its third draft at the moment, so it's killing me. But it's interesting to think about which ideas are timeless and which ideas go out of date. And certainly when it comes to business books, I think that it's really important to understand which are the key principles and which are just strategies that come and go. Wawa, when you wanted to contribute, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I want to contribute. I want to contribute for this topic. This topic is talking about kitchen table, but
Yeah.
actually I didn't know about uh book that tell us about uh kitchen table, but I suggest to others to looking for about book about kitchen table, about how to run it, how to run a business restaurant or like food and beverage. So I know about that because I had an experience about about book club about uh, food and beverage. So I really know about that, and unfortunately I didn't know what's the title, and I think the title uh, is real like kitchen table, like restaurant, and anything else. So sorry for my sound, my voice,
No, please don't
because
apologize. You have no need to apologize here. It's absolutely fine.
yeah, okay, yeah. I really know about uh the story of kitchen table when people didn't know how people can cook very well. They like to see a book recipe, and they like to cook by book recipe. And this is about history of kitchen table. But people like to look for recipe and like to memorize about how to cook something very well. And in the past, people needed to know about uh, kitchen table, but people know about recipe. So now it's more modern
Wow,
in
and
the edge.
thank you so much for contributing. I think your pulling us back to the kitchen table is a really interesting point, because we
Yeah.
we are all starting from our kitchen table here. We are all people first, and we're building businesses from what we know, from what's familiar, and from our local places. We're not people who go out into big offices and build theoretical businesses that, you know, move money around. We're people who work with people, and we work from the things that we know well. So thank you so much for bringing us back to that idea of the kitchen table. Carol Shaw, what did you want to participate to contribute?
Yeah. Sorry, when I said that educational businesses are not like business, I mean they have much in common. Yeah,
Yeah.
but because of educators, they're always kind, and and all. It's not the same as other forms of business, But other than that, they are. There's obviously lots of similarities, but it's an educational business, so the parameters are a bit different. I know, of course, there are other businesses that work in a sort of human services capacity anyway. But I'm a member of, when I say a member, I'm not that you don't have to pay a membership, but of Small Business Britain and what's the other one? Enterprise Nation. So
Right.
I get there, you find them online, and they run really good workshops every week, and they have local meetups. And most of them are on Zoom, but some are in person, rather like, QT. Well, actually, no, the small business meetups at the moment, they're on Zoom, and you can attend anyone in the country. So I live, on the borders of Essex, so I've attended the Essex one, the East London one, the North London one, because that's all, and I could attend the Hertfordshire one if I wanted, you're not restricted. That's of Enterprise Nation, and yeah, Small Business Britain has their own stuff, and it's well worth signing up to that, because you get all sorts of information and support. And then there's
So,
I mean, it's not quite answering a question about, but
well,
it's just.
I think you are. I think what you've done is you brought us full circle, and you've said that it seems to be easier and potentially more helpful to be learning about business methodologies from community than from a book.
You could say so. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, you could say that's so. And as I say, and I've said before, to reiterate, most of what I learned sort of on the ground and from attending these courses. Some of which had obviously material attached to them. Like
Yeah.
one of the books that was it's not specifically to do with building a business. It was basically how to make sure you're an absolute failure. It was basically, if you did X and Y, you would fail. But if you didn't do that, then you had a chance of success. It could be in any field.
That's
If
funny,
you
isn't it? It's a bit like the How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Exactly, because it comes out of that stable. All these courses that I went on
Yeah.
with my husband in the early 2000s, actually, I picked up with them very recently, just in the last 5 years, just out of interest sake. They were all very heavily influenced by Dale Carnegie methods.
I
The
understand.
How to
I tell you
Win.
what else is occurring to me here in this conversation. Oh, Tina, you're nodding. You know what? No, Tina, go ahead, dive in, and I'll come back to the thought that Carol's inspired after. Go ahead, go ahead. Dale Carnegie, you were saying.
No, I mean it's a very, very well known. I myself never studied. I know people who did it and all that. I mean, a lot of models. No, I just as far as models are concerned, like I said, business is business. I said what I learned 30 years ago doesn't seem to be relevant, not all of it, especially marketing, which was my specialty. Obviously, marketing has really changed, evolved. But
sorry, just dial back. You made an assumption there that people know what you mean. Why has marketing changed?
Oh, because it's just the approach to marketing. I mean, the way the tools we use for marketing have completely changed,
Right. Because marketing is no longer mass marketing.
And the speed at which information is, transmitted is just, a big factor. But if there is one thing I learned back then that I think is still relevant, it's timing. And like we said in marketing, you can have the best product ever, But if it's not time for that product to be received, you're going to fail. So, I mean, it's the same thing, I think, in education or the small businesses. If we may have great ideas, but if the public is not ready for our ideas, we can have the best business model possible, but it's not because it's a good business model that it's going to work all the time. Timing is essential.
So I have a very strong feeling, and I'm sure many in this room do, that this is the right time to be in tutoring. That the need for tutoring has never been greater.
Absolutely.
That the changes that are coming in education will need to lean into a more person-centered approach to education. And so really in terms of timing, we may be a little bit ahead of the curve. We're definitely in the right place. I have spent a lot of time with Mike Michalowicz's material. He wrote Profit First. One of his books that's not as well known is called The Surge, and he talks about surfing and how surfers wait for a wave and they look to see the surge and then they paddle in that direction. And what you want to do is be able to jump onto your board as the wave is coming up behind you. And I feel that in terms of timing, this is a very, very interesting time in tutoring. Would you guys agree?
I agree.
Anyone want to unmute and share your thoughts? Because that's what we're doing here.
Some days, I think it's been slightly weaker this year.
That's interesting. It was a strong start, though. People were really focused in the summer.
I felt in the autumn it was a bit weaker. It's taken me a long time to fill up. I am full now, but it's taken. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's a particularly good time. I think we're losing some of the impetus that we had from the pandemic.
That's interesting. It's almost like the need is less acute at the moment. Anna, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I was just going to say that yes, I can see a surge, but I also have great worry in me, thinking, am I on the right surge, or there's going to be a surge further down there and everyone is like about to take that way? Because I started doing courses now, so I've created my first course and I'm very excited about it. But most of my time is spent tutoring, yeah. And somebody contacted me this week saying, "Oh, do you want to write a course for me?" It's like, well, no, I just written my own course. Why would I then give it to you? It doesn't make any sense. But I just thought, oh, maybe there's going to be other platforms coming in and things are going to take a totally different direction, and I should be working more on that. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
I do. I understand.
It's creating a bit of anxiety to see it as a surge, which is fine because it's part of being an entrepreneur. You just ride the waves as they come.
We live in anxiety. Let me just reflect something back to you. The challenge of being an entrepreneur at home, small business owner, solopreneur, whatever you want to call us, is we struggle to keep a sense of context, to know what's going on out there, right? So I have this gorgeous opportunity because I know what's going on in lots of your business lives. And I speak to people who are building different platforms every day. And very frequently, I can have 2 or 3 people telling me that they're building exactly the same thing in one day. And it amazes me that they don't know about each other because there are synergies there, and that nobody needs to reinvent wheels because there is so much that needs to happen in this space. And so I would suggest that these conversations where we actually build context around each other and see what each other's doing. So for example, Anna, very, very practically, Claire Wilshire, I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot. Claire has a platform that promotes other people's courses and offers affordable tutoring by offering courses and then supplementing them. Is that right, Claire?
Yeah, it's about right, yeah.
So when you think about surges and waves, there are a lot of ways happening here concurrently. But I think in service of children, I read a beautiful phrase. I don't know if you've seen Fred Kaufman's work. He said, it's not that we're all in the same boat. It's that we're all surfing the same wave, but we each have our own ship, right? Our own craft. Claire, what are your thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of us, but I think we've all got our own speciality, and together we provide a service. So it's finding your little niche. I remember years ago, before what was the website? Not on
the high street.
Yeah, that's it. I had started up a business called Uniqua, and again, I was putting people, whatever they were creating, I was putting it onto the website. But it was like when I was having children, I just couldn't manage it. And then you had Etsy all kick off and everything. I thought that could have been me, But yeah, so now it's made me more determined for this to work as well. But there are so many tutors out there, and I just want to support tutors, families, everybody with what I'm planning, it's.
I think there's a lovely phrase. When you say everybody, you don't mean everybody, right? You need to have a certain level of reach that's going to fulfill your needs.
Yeah.
And then it's like a match, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to share with you when you said this could have been me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Firstly, you got to raise your kids, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And secondly, this is one of the books that we're going to be covering in future months. Again, this is Seth Godin, and this book, The Dip, you can see that I only choose short books, right? Because I know what they're like. So you can see that this is like a learning curve, yeah? Where he's in the pit, and the question is to keep going or not. He says like this, he says, there is nothing wrong with quitting, yeah? The trick is to know when to quit. You quit early if you can see that you're not going to be able to go the distance, yeah? You quit if you can see that you're actually in a cul-de-sac, there's nowhere to go. But if the going is tough, but you can see a way through, that's when you have to be persistent and just go the long haul.
That's where I am. I've had many days where you're like, my God, what am I doing? But I know my goal, and I know I'm going to get there, and it's going to happen. And how far I've gone in 1 year is just amazing. So I'm thinking, what's going to happen in the next 12 years? And also my philosophy is things happen for a reason. And if there's lots of things that you're working on, and there's lots of resistance and blockages, that for me is a signal going, no, this is not working. We've got to change, or just have a, revamp or something. So that's my life philosophy. It's like things happen for a reason. And also what goes around comes around.
I see on that side. I thought you meant sow happy seeds, but you're saying also if you sow sour seeds, you will eat them one day. Where you say, I know where I'm going. I don't know. I feel like I'm compensating with bringing all the books in today. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of his first habits is number 2, begin with the end in mind. And that's really interesting because how helpful is it? And I really don't know the answer to this. How helpful is it to ask a child, what do they want to be when they grow up? Or who do they want to be when they grow up?
I think you're molded all the time. I think life guides you.
Yeah.
You have a goal, I have a goal, but how I'm going to get there is like this, isn't it? It's just, oh, for goodness sake, go away.
I need you guys. I have a matching lab in my.
I know.
Look at this.
We've got right.
Say hi. She's a teenager at my lab,
but
and she's all...
I think this is it. And yeah, you got to accept that there's sometimes there's setbacks, but you've got to think about, well, that's there for a reason. That's telling me not to do that and to change. So it's mind over matter. You've got to then program yourself to go, right, that happened. Think about the good that's going to happen from that change.
So I want to point something out that you're doing there. So firstly, there's a real strong sense of purpose. Yeah. And really the point of this conversation was not to evaluate the book. The point of this conversation was for us to get in touch with our purpose as business owners. But also what you've done there is you've spoken about strategies, what the self-talk is that helps you to get through. And I've heard you tutor. You use the same talk with your students, don't you? Yeah. So these are actually strategies that we already have. We just have to remember to turn them on ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
Right, my lovely friends, I am going to wrap this gorgeous conversation up, which I've enjoyed very much. Carol, did you want to contribute?
I did. I just wanted to say I think that tutoring is different to some businesses in that you so much your customer base develops, and you make your own customer base to such an extent so that it's so much like word of mouth passing between one parent and another and them asking what they want. So that makes it a bit different type of business.
That's really interesting. So I know when I started tutoring, when my 14-year-old was born, that's what tutoring looked like for me. And I really struggled with that life because it felt very, I'm sorry, I'm muting you just because of the crackle. I really struggled with that life because it felt very ad hoc to me. And I felt very much at the whim of the next testimonial. And I think it's interesting that tutoring goes way beyond personal recommendations nowadays because of the internet, because how easy it is to set yourself up as a tutor, and therefore how important it is to understand what good looks like and to assert that level of excellence and be more proactive, I think, than tutors have ever been before. I think we're much less at the whim of clients and much more aware of ourselves as professionals. Tina, did you want to contribute before I wrap up?
Yeah, I just have a question I wanted to throw out. When you're saying tutoring business, are we talking about all just individuals? So there's no, because earlier on somebody mentioned that school where somebody diversified and had the swimming pool and had the crush and things like that. And that actually piqued my interest because I kind of have this project business idea in mind, but at my age, I cannot do this by myself. So I would need business partners. But I like the idea of diversifying. But the tutoring itself, as I go towards retiring, when I have to move, and I'm toying with the idea of getting, moving into a place where I can have the office as well, where people can come to me. Because right now I go to my clients. So that's why I just wondering, are you all really independent?
So qualified tutor membership is for independent tutors. And so many of the people here will be independent tutors who will have different size and different scope businesses. I think what we like to speak about as a community is how rich and varied the profession is at the moment and how you're able to personalize the way you work as well as personalizing the service that you give children. So the tutoring business is a highly personalized space. It's a highly niche space. Again, Claire, I'm leaning into your business at the moment because when you told me that National Tutors is designed to create affordable tutoring opportunities, that really piqued my interest in the same way that Tina says, a portfolio career. It's very, very relevant right now to think about how to serve people and really go to where they are. Yesterday, I spoke with somebody in Canada who has made a beautiful resource for home education. Yeah. Yesterday in the afternoon, I met with these school business managers who are running creches that can then be repurposed as tutoring centers in the afternoon. Alternative provision was the focus last week, which means the children who are not able to attend school for emotional-based absence, tutors have to go to where they are. And there's funding to help those children get back into education. So there's a lot going on in this area right now. And between us, we are making change. I would love to remind you that it is much easier to do it in community, right? You saw that coming. It is much, much easier for us to steel ourselves, to keep going through the dip and to bring new ideas to the table. That opportunity of saying, oh, this isn't going. Where should I pivot to next? Where's the next opportunity? I need a business partner. Where do I reach out to find where do I reach out to find one? The answer is that's what Qualified Tutor does. In the same way that Not on the High Street connects makers who are making beautiful things, bring them out into the world, Qualified Tutor intends to bring you to each other. So please lean into what we've created for you because that's the whole agenda here. Bless you that you have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for participating in Book Club with No Books. And I really enjoyed this conversation. If you're not signed up for the Qualified Tutor newsletter, if there's one thing you should do, it's that, because that's where we tell you what's coming up next. So the Qualified Tutor newsletter, which you can find on qualifiedtutor.org, is a free resource to you so that you don't get overwhelmed and you know what we have up our sleeves for you next. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Wawan. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Carol. It was
Thank you.
great. Thank you,
Bye.
Debbie. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All the best.